So I grew up in a household where chapati was something that we ate every single week. My mother loved chapatis, that she basically cooked chapatis the very last day that she was alive on this earth. So it shows you how chapatis are so important in my household. So today I'm going to be preparing the dough that I'll use. I'll not show you the whole process of how I cook until the end because obviously I have to make the dough, and then after making the dough, I'll need to wait for it to rest. And as it's resting, I'm not going to be staying on YouTube. I'm going to do other things. So I've got a bowl here, just a simple metallic bowl. And then I've got flour. I have some Kenyan flour. Every time somebody goes home, I usually send them to bring me something with them. I've got some sunflower oil. Oil is a little bit of a tricky one because there's so much debates about which one is the right oil. Some people say the sunflower is a inflammatory and all this kind of stuff. I'm not going to go into that argument today because that's not really what I want to argue about. So I'll put in a little bit of sunflower oil, which I need when I'm kneading, and then a little bit just of sugar. We'll go in a little bit of salt as well. So once I put in a little bit of salt, and then I've just boiled some hot water. I love boiled water when I'm making my chapatis. Why? I don't know. Some people prefer lukewarm water. I've never seen chapatis made with cold water because if you make it with cold water, it won't allow for yeah, I don't know. But in my since my years that I've been making chapatis, I have never ever seen chapatis with cold water. Normally it's lukewarm water, but I use hot water. So I'm going to keep this very straightforward to the point without really complicating stuff. So let's get into it. So my camera is going all over the place. Let's see. Stay there, Mr. Camera. Don't move, don't move. So we're gonna make this dough, as I said today, but I will not cook it on live camera because obviously I will love my dough to rest. So for those of you who are joining me, I just mentioned hi, I can see guys. I grew up in a household where chapati was an in thing. Born and bred in Kenya, and my parents really loved us eating chapatis. I can see some of you live. And my mother literally had chapati the night before she passed away. It tells you how much chapati is so important. And so today I just thought I'm going to do a little bit of a demo of how I make my flour. And then after I've done that, I'll leave you guys and disappear. So I've got some Kenyan flour. Doesn't really matter. You can use, I've used British flour as well. As long as you have wheat flour, that's what matters. I'm going to be using all-purpose. All-purpose flour is a little bit tricky one because it's white flour, but um, during the processing, what happens is that they generally remove the bran, and the bran is where it has goodies like all the fiber and things like that. But of course, by law, they have to fortify the flour, and so they fortify it with those minerals that are removed when they are processing. I'm not gonna go into the whole flour making process. That's what I do in class when I'm teaching my students. But just to say that I'm using general all-purpose flour. I know friends of mine, my sisters as well, who end up using whole wheat flour. You can use that because obviously it will have more fiber, it will have more nutritional value compared to white flour, but I've got only white flour. But also when I send people back home to bring me flour, I cannot choose. They say the beggar's knees are supple, isn't it? You can't choose when you are begging somebody to bring you a packet of flour. So let's get into it. So I'm just gonna get some flour in here. I'll move this a little bit into the middle. You may be hearing noises in the background. I'm back home with kids around. And then the next thing, I don't weigh. When that's why I don't bake. I'm not a baker because I just don't get this whole recipe, measure this, do that. It's not for me. So I just put in like how my mother taught me, the flour, that is enough. This is enough for 3 people. So I'm going to make around 10 chapatis, and that's more than enough for the three of us. I'll put in, as I said, a little bit of sugar. Again, I don't really measure. That's just like it. And I'm using the brown sugar because, again, we don't do a lot of sugar in my house. We try to reduce the sugar that we consume. And then a little bit of a salt. As I said, again, I don't measure these things, but also I'm trying to avoid too much sugar because for those of you who have watched my video that I talked about having heat edema, salt is can be an enemy. So I'm just trying to stay away. At this stage, you could go in with an electric with your mixer if you want to, but I'm a traditional girl, so I prefer just going in with my cooking stick, or sometimes my hand, God-given talent, right? I just go in with my hand. And normally at this stage, I try to aerate the flour as much as I can, just giving it a little bit of a squeeze. So it's as aerated as possible because that's going to affect the quality of the chapati. If you really want soft, fluffy chapatis, then this is a secret. Is gonna be how you aerate or allow the flour to get some air in it. So I'll stop talking. It feels like a lot of work. I'm not good at demonstrating stuff. So, well, my phone is going. Let's see if I get it back. My phone is traveling. It doesn't want to stay where I put it. So you can do this for quite some while just to get that as I-rated as possible. And I can see some of you who are saying hello in the chat. If you're live with me, why not say hello as well? Tell us where you're watching us from. Leave us a comment, leave us like this video if you want to share it, if you want to comment, that would be really helpful. So you can do this for as long as you want, just to high rate. Well, when my hi Ivy, I can see when my Kenyan language comes in, I even high rate the flour. So that continues. You can do it as long as you want. So that's beautiful. And then now I'm going to add in flour oil. As I said, it can be very controversial. Some people say, oh, sunflower can be, I mean, sunflower is unsaturated oil, which just means that it does not have a double bond in its structure, for those of you who've done chemistry. And so because of that, the structure can easily open and can be attacked by other things. So it can easily undergo things like lipid oxidation, and that's not something you want. There are people that say sunflower can be inflammatory. I have been using sunflower oil for so long. I've not seen any inflammation. And I prefer to use this than using saturated oil. Sometimes I do as well use ghee. So I just get like ghee. In the UK, there's like I'm making some chapatis, Ivy. There is some vegetarian ghee as well that you can use. I use that, and most of the time I love to use my ghee when it comes to the frying of the chapati. Just a little bit of oil. You don't want to really go into too much baptizing of your. You can see the mixture really. It's not really much oil in there. You don't want to baptize your mixture with oil. So I'm making some chapatis. As I said, I grew up in a household where chapati making was something that we learned from a very young age. When I was, I think, less than 10 years old, I could make chapatis because there was no excuse why you couldn't make chapatis, especially given that thank you. If given that my household, we ate chapatis every weekend. So give it a little bit more hydration, and then, as I said, I use hot water. This again controversial for some people. Some will say, oh, use lukewarm water. No, I love hot water for my chapati. So I don't do lukewarm. I do really, really pretty hot water because it just helps me to soften everything up. And if you know a little bit about the chemistry of all these things, so when you're having flour that's like wheat has got gluten in it. I'll show you guys how that looks like in a minute. So you see that it's just coming back together. Gluten is the key proteins. Those are globulin proteins, and you have um gluten and gluteline. Those are the two ones. When you catch me on off guard, I'm not really good at thinking. And so those are the proteins that give your dough the stretchiness. So you need that stretchy kind of texture, which is important for chapati, because obviously if you're going to be kneading and you're going to be rolling your flour, your dough, you need that stretchiness. So that's why gluten is really important. If you're gluten intolerant, then this is your opportunity to use other flours. You may not end up with the correct texture, because obviously the other flours will not be able to aerate as much as possible. So the magic begins. I'll go in just with my hands. As I said, that's how I like. You could as well decide to go in with an electric mixer. If you have a mixer, I've got a mixer, but hey, as I say, I'm a Kenyan girl, born and bred in Kenya. I grew up in the village. So we do this the village way, right? So I'm just going to knead this. So that's how it looks like. But now this is where the tricky part begins. They anyone who's from Kenya or who understands Swahili will know they always say kanda unga, like literally do the kneading. If you don't knead the flour, you'll end up with trouble. You don't want to cook crisp chapati. Chapati is made to be soft. So you have to give a really, really, really good kneading. It's a little bit crumbly. I don't expect it to be crumbly. So I'm just going to go in with a little bit more flour. Just sprinkle that around a little bit and continue kneading. And I'll take a break. As I said, I feel the pressure. I don't like doing this live on camera, but hey, I say I learn from my own mistakes sometimes. So how can I learn from something that I don't document? Hence the reason why I do what I'm doing. So let's get this guy kneaded, right? So I'm just gonna continue with the kneading now. You can see how the texture looks like. So we just keep on going. Typically, the flour should not be sticking on your fingers. So if you really want to know that you have done a good job, it should stop. The flour should stop kind of sticking on your fingers. I'll add in a little bit of flour. And as I said, I'm using all-purpose flour. You can use whole flour or whatever that you want. It will give you whatever the outcome may not be what you expect, but hey, you can always learn from your mistakes. So let's do the kneading. This is the most important part, I guess, in chapati making. I'll shut up for a minute. And if you want to ask me a question or tell me where you're watching from, what's your name, which country are you from, have you ever cooked chapatis, how do you make your flour? This is your time. This is your chance. Ask me any question. If you have any questions for me, I'll be more than happy to answer them now. Going. Feel the pressure. I'm giving myself pressure. Pressure. I don't know when this thing. I just want it to stop sticking on my hands, because if it's still sticking, it tells you that there's a problem with the flour. Yeah, I can see Ivy or Ivy. Yeah, thank you so much. It's good to see you watching from England. Which part of England? It might be you're my neighbor. You never know. I don't know. So let's keep this going. Because I'm doing it live on camera, it just feels like things are not coming down together with each other. But we are almost there. We're almost there. We'll get this bad boy done. Think I'll add in more because I use hot water. It does really softens the flour. And also when I use Kenyan flour, my goodness, is really, really super soft. So I've got to do a little bit more work with it. But some of you might be professors of dough making that you don't need a lot of trouble like me. You don't go through trouble like me. But hey, eventually it does work out, right? So let's get it kneaded. As I said, if you want to tell us from in the chat where you're watching us from, I'll add in a little bit more sunflower oil, just like as this is not a lot. I don't want to put in too much oil so that I'm not baptizing my chapatis in oil. Because to be honest, chapatis are not the most healthiest thing because of the amount of oil that you've got to use. So I try to limit sometimes some of the things that I do just to make it a little bit more healthy. And one of the other ways, of course, you can do that is to use whole flour as I said. But if I cook whole flour chapatis in my house, I'll eat by myself. Nobody in my house will eat whole flour chapatis. Because again, it's that conditioning, isn't it? What you're accustomed to. That's what you end up doing most of the time. So sometimes, as I said, I don't set, I'm not really a protocol person, but I am because I'm a scientist. That's what I do for a living. But normally, sometimes when I start this process, not sometimes, I literally put a timer and the timer will continue until I know like I've done 10 minutes of kneading. As I said, if you're Kenyan, you'll know. They say kanda unga. Like basically knead your flour. That's the most. So I'm just going to knead and let it do its thing until it stops sticking on my fingers. I'll just keep on adding a little bit flour, a little bit flour. I think I'm there. I'm finally there. I'm thinking I'm not yet. We'll get there in the end. Finally, we'll get there. I still feel like that's quite a bit more sticky. I just don't want it to be too overly done, but I also do not want it to be too sticky on my fingers. So that's why I'm still adding in a little bit of the flour. Perhaps a little bit more of oil might be useful stage. A tiny bit of oil. Then we continue with the kneading. Some people will remove it at this stage. I'm there. I'm happy with what I've made. Some people at this stage will remove it and start kneading it on the surface. That's not my specialty. I know my thing. I do me. I am me. I'm comfortable being me. Hence, I'm not going to try it. I will do my way and just stick to what I know. My hands are really sore. I'm doing my gym today. Right after this, there's no weightlifting. You lift your weight and you're happy and good to go. So I'm happy with the way the dough is like. You don't really want it to be too soft and too hard. I'll knead it again later on before I start cooking it, but now I'm just going to shape it a little bit. And then I'll take my final touch of oil just around it a little bit. So this is how the dough looks in the. There are different ways that you can do once you have this. You can shape it up. Some people cut it up. Some people roll it and then they slice it. I just love leaving the dough as it is. I'm not going to bother with it now. I put some oil on it. So I'm just going to leave this. Love shaping it around. So it's a nice round shape. And then I'll cover this up with a warm towel, and then I will leave it for about maybe half an hour-ish. And in the meantime, I've just tried to, I don't know if I can show that. This is like, I have to wash my hands first. This is like green grams. We call them dengu in Kenya. I'm soaking these up for later. Then I'll just use a pressure cooker. I'll pressure cook those ones, fry them down, and then make my chapatis. And that will be our dinner today. So thank you so much for all of you who've joined. And for those of you who've let me know where you're coming from or where you're watching from, thank you for your time. And now we'll leave these guys. Next time, if I get chance and I don't feel the pressure, because I can feel I'm really panting, I will try to do the cooking part. So I've also done a cooking before on this channel. So have a great evening. Thank you so much for the support. Have a great one. God bless and catch up with you again soon. But for now, I'll leave you with my flour. I'll wrap it up. As I said, either I'll use, it depends. Sometimes I use like a towel where I just dip it in hot water, hot boiling water, and then I leave that for half an hour just to get that the elasticity forming so that I can be able to easily roll my chapatis. Or sometimes I can as well use like cling film, and the cling film, because it's like plastic, I wrap it up. And when I switch on my pressure cooker, the heat itself is the one that will actually work in softening. You can already see I've got that gluten structure that is forming. As I said, is the gluten that is important during chapati making. So when you start rolling up your chapatis, that will be helpful. So thank you so much for your custom and your time. Have an amazing time. Catch up with you again pretty much soon. God bless you. Know that you're loved, celebrated, and appreciated. Thank you for your custom. Goodbye and God bless. Bye.